Thank you very much, Elena, and welcome everybody. Good to see so many people here. So as Elena says, I'm the local president this year for JSA Edinburgh, which stands for Junior Chambers International, and we're really excited to be here tonight to team up with WYCA for this, what I can only assume to be a very inspiring panel event. So we're really looking forward to that. Just a really quick, in a nutshell, what JSI is, because we're the best kept secret of Scotland, so I can totally imagine most of you will not have heard about us before. We are a non-profit organisation for 18 to 40-year-olds, really all over the world. We're pretty much in every country in the world. And we're for people who want to kind of better and develop themselves and the world around them. And we do this in line with 4 pillars: business and networking, community, individual and international. We organise workshops, events, panel sessions, socials, and we're also partnered with the United Nations, and we try to work in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. And our kind of motto is to develop leaders for a changing world. And within Scotland, we're pretty much all over it a little bit. We're up in the north in Aberdeen, we're in Glasgow, in Edinburgh, and we also have an online chapter, Elba. So all I would say is give us a wee follow on Facebook if you're interested for upcoming events. And it's over to Patricia, and enjoy the panel event.
Thank you, Valerie. I'm Patricia Kupiec. I'm the CEO of YWCA Scotland, the Young Women's Movement. We are a national feminist women's organization in Scotland. We work with young women mainly, young women under 30, and our mission is really to provide leadership opportunities for young women and also to advocate for equal representation at all levels and in all industries. Hence the partnership with GCI today for this event. And before I introduce you to our amazing panelists, I'll just give you a quick overview of the rationale behind this event. So we know that in Scotland, across all areas of society, women are underrepresented in positions of power, and especially young women. Our friends at Engender did their research in 2020 called Sex and Power in Scotland, in which they stated that there are currently 3,115 positions of power in Scotland across our political institutions, public sector, media and cultural bodies and corporate world, but women hold only 996 of these positions, so just below 1,000, which is less than a third of the total. So based on that statistic alone, we can definitely say that we have not yet reached the equal representation and leadership. Our own research at YWCA Scotland in 2018, our status of young women in Scotland looked at political representation and engagement, and 64% of young women that responded to our research felt that their voices and views are not represented in Scotland's politics and policies today. So this is a really important topic. This is something that really directs all of our work, and this is our kind of mission and vision as an organization. Because in a nutshell, you cannot be what you cannot see. So you need those relatable, diverse role models. And unfortunately, Scotland today does not present women with satisfactory representation of women in positions of power. And that, of course, is coupled with persisting patriarchal system, which overtly and covertly blocks women from achieving their full potential. So we find ourselves in today's climate of glass ceilings, imposter syndrome, and untapped talent across the country. So one of the solutions to address all of these gloom and doom things that I just summarized very, very briefly is to ensure that women can bring their expertise and fully participate in every institution of governance and decision making. And mentorship offers a real opportunity to do that to young women who might not be in those positions of leaderships themselves and are not otherwise given a seat at the table. So today we invited a panel of experts to explore the value, power, implementation, and urgent need for female mentors in business, political spheres, activism, education, and more. So it's my pleasure now to introduce you to our panelists. So first we have Becky White, who is a 16-year-old activist and feminist from Edinburgh. She has advocated for children's rights in issues such as Brexit, gender equality, climate change, and poverty. She is also a member of the Scottish Youth Parliament and the UK Youth Parliament, and is YWCA Scotland's Young Women Leads Programme alumna. She also works as a young advisor with the Children and Young People's Commissioner in Scotland to ensure that every child knows and has their rights protected. Next, we have Sophie Amono, who is the founder of Edinburgh-based social media agency Staffs, a Black-owned, women-led creative studio that produces social media campaigns for brands across the UK and Europe. Over the last 10 years, her career has seen her work with some of the biggest brands in contemporary communications, including Days Digital, Bulletproof, The Times, and Not Just a Label. Her path to agency ownership was born out of a desire to fill the gap she saw in ethnic minority and female leadership within the creative industries. A path which has seen her now go on to grow a team of over 70 members of staff and influencers, and where her personal efforts are now focused on advocacy, work with underrepresented groups. With recent partnerships and speaking spots with Ladies Wine and Design in Scotland, Hidden Women in Design, and the European Packaging Design Awards, Sophie is also on the BIMA Inclusion and Diversity Council and Creative Scotland EDI Advisory Group, with the vision to help drive impactful change for creatives across Scotland and the UK. And last, we have Justine Mitchell, who was named Businesswoman Scotland's Inspirational Woman of the Year in 2016, and has had a long, varied and highly successful career across Scotland. Studying law at Aberdeen, she then moved into her first role as a solicitor in civil litigation and began to work towards a role in employment law. Looking for a new challenge and following her passion for football, Justine made the move into the world of Scottish football as the only female director at that time of a Scottish Premier football club for Dundee United. This move also saw Justine founding and chairing Dundee United women's football team, as well as being involved with the Scottish Football Association and non-exec of the Scottish Women's Football Board. Underpinning all of this is Chamomile Sanctuary, an award-winning boutique spa in Edinburgh, which she founded in 2010. So as you can see, we have very varied experiences and expertise in the room here today. And I'm really excited to start the conversation with the panelists. Yeah, I just saw a comment from Valerie, what a panel. I completely agree. So we have prepared some questions just to get us started, but please feel free to continue using the chat function to ask any questions or comments or share your own experiences. We want this event to be as interactive as possible. So to get us started, a question for all the panelists. Could you tell us a bit more about your leadership journey?
Yeah, so I'll start. Hi everyone, so lovely to see you on the last day of Women's History Month 2021. How appropriate that we're all here talking about women in leadership and mentoring for young women. So my journey into leadership was completely by accident. I didn't expect to be a leader, but I definitely knew growing up that there was this sense of me wanting to speak up for people who couldn't speak up. And in school, I was the person that put myself, for the anti-bullying campaign. I was, the one that put myself for class representative on the student council. But I never imagined in a million years I would be a business leader. And it happened because what I was seeing working in the advertising industry is that were no women-owned agencies. So for those of you that don't work in advertising, an agency is just a business that creates campaigns for TV, for radio, what we do, social media, websites, and they were all run by men. And predominantly, straight, quite affluent, well-educated in terms of, the traditional career routes. There was no, neurodiversity, disability diversity, racial diversity, sexuality diversity. There was nothing like this. And I just felt like, look, if we're going to be creating these advertising campaigns, we need more women leading these advertising campaigns. We are the biggest purchasing power pound per capita is women. We drive purchasing, but we're not making the adverts that are being sold. We're not getting paid the money. What's happened? And I think it came out of a desire to find a position that wasn't there for me. So I did work in the advertising world, but there was always this cap of how far I could go. And the route that I was kind of pushed down, because I didn't go through a traditional route into education, I did an apprenticeship first when I left school. So I didn't go straight to university. I didn't go on to a master's like most agency owners had done. I found that I was kind of pushed into this. You can be an account manager. An account manager is kind of like, it's an amazing job, but it's, you know, typical secretary, like what we expect women to do, you know, go to the meeting, take notes, you know, all the money making stuff, that's for the men. And I just thought, no, so something has got to change. And so, yeah, I started my own agency because the opportunity wasn't there for me to be a leader in the agency world. And I think that's so important as well for young women to understand, is that sometimes the world that we're living in, the places that you find yourself, there's not going to be a seat at the table for you. And you might just have to go and, you know, take your little axe, go and chop down your tree, get your nails and build your own table for yourself. And because of that, it now means that I lead an agency where I actively recruit underrepresented communities. So that includes, you know, people of color, that includes people who may have not gone university, had never worked in an agency before. We have our own apprenticeship program. And now I'm really passionate about driving that change again. I never imagined I would be involved in like political advocacy work, but now I sit on things like the Creative Scotland Equalities, Diversity and Inclusion Group, the British Council Arts Advisory Board, all of these things to help the creative sector become a place where women, and especially underrepresented women, feel welcome. But my choice to be a leader was more because of what I'd seen, the injustices that I'd seen. So I never set out to be a leader. So if there's anyone here that's thinking, oh, I'm not sure if this is for me, even if you don't think that you can do it now, as you grow, as you develop, as you see more, you will find your place in the world. And trust me, if I could do it, if I could do it, somebody who, yeah, didn't go down that traditional route, you know, didn't go to university, didn't do all the things that leaders are supposed to be, then I absolutely guarantee that you can do it as well.
Well, gosh, that was I think my journey's been very, very different from Sophie's, but that sounds absolutely amazing, Sophie. I feel like I've got imposter syndrome just listening to you. So as Patricia had said earlier, I went down the route of university, and I went to Aberdeen Uni to study law. Came out of that, went into civil litigation, did very well in that, loved being on my feet in court, and in fact became a partner when I was 29 or age 30, so very young as well, and very unusual at that point to be a female partner. I wouldn't say that I have set out to be a leader from when I was young. I think, however, I wanted to do well, I wanted to be successful. And obviously I got into that position of leadership at being a partner. However, I was quite unhappy ultimately with law, and as I said, I started on civil litigation. And I moved into employment law, so I was doing a lot of employment tribunals, but then it became a case of setting up employment law teams, and I was doing a lot of employment contracts, management buyouts and things like that, and I wasn't on my feet in court and things, and I lost the buzz for it and the enjoyment for it. And my husband, he persuaded me we'd moved into property redevelopment at that point as well. And so he persuaded me, because I was unhappy doing what I was doing, to basically step out of law way back in 2005. And we moved fully into property redevelopment, which was great. We had no team, it was just myself and my husband. And then life kind of imploded for me in 2008. The property market crashed in that October. And at the same time, my husband died in a motorbike accident at the age of 38. And my dad died 3 days later from cancer. And I had a wee 13-month-old baby at the time. And I witnessed the motorbike accident as well. So, you know, it was a long time ago, but you know, it was a massively difficult time for me. And because the property market crashed, the properties that we had crashed in value and so on and so forth. So I had to look for something else to do. And I became very friendly with my late husband's first wife, who was a beauty therapist. And we became very friendly. And one day, because they had a daughter and I had my son Monty, so one day she was waxing my legs, and I said to her, I think we should go into business together. And she didn't quite believe me. And I saw a gap in the market in Edinburgh between beautiful hotel spas, luxurious, and standard beauty salons. And I thought we could do something really nice, boutique, offer your normal beauty things, but also come in for lovely spa treatments and so on and so forth. So she didn't really believe me, went off for a holiday for 2 weeks, came back and said, right, what do you think? And she was like, sorry. And I said, come on, are we going to do it? And literally dragged her off to see a property the next day, and we bought it, and off we went from there. And Chamomile Sanctuary was born in 2010. So that was my journey. I still have Chamomile, but also I then got involved in the football world. Gosh, I can't remember now, 2000 and maybe 13 or so. So I was a director of Dundee United, and also co-owner of the club as well. And when I went onto the board, everybody seemed to have all their kind of own identities and all their own niches. Yes, I have to say, and I wasn't particularly welcomed when I went onto the board, even though I even owned half the club. That's another story in itself. And I thought, well, what can I do? What can I do to contribute to the club that I have loved and adored since I was a kid? So I went off and set up Dundee United women's football team. They never had one before. That was a hard job. Was told I would have no money from the club. I had to get on with it myself and find sponsorship myself, which, if you think about it, is absolutely appalling. For, you know, a women's team of that club and given no money whatsoever, but we got it. We interviewed, set up the team, did all the training, and we won our league that first year, and again, and so on. And now we're up in the Scottish Women's Premier League. I've taken a step, thank you, Sophie. I've taken a step back from it now, but we got there and I was chuffed to bits with that. And I also took advantage of my position. So I got involved with some work with the Scottish Football Association, went on to the Scottish Women's Football Board, and also on the Dundee United Community Trust. In terms of leadership, I wouldn't say it was something that I looked for, but I guess in a way I did because I wanted to be successful as a lawyer, and that comes with teams and leadership. But I've had, in all the roles that I've had, they've all been different. And what I have learned, one huge thing for leadership for me is that you have to have the right team in place. If you don't have the right team, you don't have a business. It's as simple as that, and you will not be successful.
Thank you to Jessie and Sophie. Both you have such incredible leadership journeys. So mine might be slightly underwhelming, but here we go. So basically, I used to be really, really shy in primary school, and I didn't really believe in myself, and I was just really, really quiet. But then I moved into secondary school, which was like an all-female environment, and I learned kind of more about feminism. Like, I'd always been interested in it, but that's when I started to read more books about feminism and trying to get more actively involved in the movement. So on a whim, I saw this charity, they were looking for like young people to come and tell them their views about Brexit, and I was like, well, you know what? I am a young person. I will tell you about why I don't like Brexit. So I did that, and I really enjoyed it. And, you know, it really empowered me to learn more about the political process and more about kind of how I could get involved in that. And then one of the leaders there, Gemma, she said to me, hey, there's this program, Young Women Lead. I think you should apply for it. And I was like, oh, I don't really think I should. But she, you know, she was such a great role model to me and was like, no, you should. So I did, and I managed to get in. So then I was part of the Young Women Lead, and we kind of examined girls and women's relationship with sport and kind of like what we can do as an organisation and what the government can do to improve it. And this was fantastic for me in terms of improving my confidence and knowledge of the political system. But also, most importantly, it gave me so many incredible role models to look up to. Because there were so many other inspiring young women on that programme who had such different experiences and jobs, all of which I could learn from. So then from there, I decided I wanted to get more involved in politics. So I decided to stand for Scottish Youth Parliament, and I managed to get elected. And now I'm currently Deputy Convener of the Equality and Human Rights Committee. But I think what's important about these opportunities for me is it's the people who are there and how everyone who's involved in them just constantly makes me want to, you know, try more things and do more and kind of develop as a person. But I think the most important thing is how I can learn from other people around me. So I think that's what's so important about programs like these or sort of youth parliaments and things like that, is it allows people the opportunity to be inspired by other people. And yeah, definitely apply for Young Women Lead. It's one of the best programs, genuinely, go for it. In terms of other leadership, I'm also a young leader for my local scout group, which I really enjoy. I used to be I'm really shy. I wouldn't really talk to the scouts, but now, you know, now I actually do, and I actually do my job as young leader. But I think what's important for me about leadership is learning from other people, and kind of everyone you meet will have their own experiences and their own pockets of knowledge, and something that they can learn, something that you can learn from them, and you have things that you bring to the table that they can learn from you. So I think it's important to always remember that. And I think, you know, always look out for people and try to empower them, because ultimately, like, the way we rise is by like helping other people and lifting others, you know. I feel like for a long time in terms of leadership, particularly to do with women, it's kind of this idea of like we can only have one female leader, so all the women need to be pitted against each other, but that's just not the case. What is more important and what will make more impact to the movement and to equality in general is when we work together and we empower people and we teach them what we bring and they teach us what they can bring. And ultimately, you know, it just leads to a better working environment and a more empowered society, which is what we need. So yeah, that's my journey with leadership.
Wow, thank you everyone. The comment that Justine made about the imposter syndrome definitely resonates after hearing all of your leadership journeys, and how amazing to see how different they were, but also that there wasn't like kind of preconceived idea of where you want to be as a leader or where you want to go, and it all kind of happened because of you adapting to situations that you were in and learning through that. Or as Sophie said, just, you know, building your own seat at the table, even if it means chopping down a tree with an axe and, you know, doing it yourself. So that's really amazing. And I think you kind of all answered the next question about sort of, you know, did you envision this is where you would be? So I'll move to the question after that, just to give us more space at the end for questions from the audience. So what's the most important leadership lesson you have learned?
Well, from my perspective, I would say it's listen. It might sound flippant, but it's not. I was used to, you know, this is what I'm doing, etc., etc. And then when you start having a team under you, you really have to learn to sit back, close your mouth and listen to people and take it on board, whether it's negative or positive, do something with it either way. For me, as far as I'm concerned, criticism, if it's, you know, it's always constructive, and it just really is listen.
I'd say for me is like delegating and giving up the reins doesn't make you a weak leader, it makes you a more powerful leader. So like you don't, just because you're the leader, you don't need to be in charge of everything. So actually like relying on other people and delegating tasks can make you a better leader, but it also can help them develop their own skills so they get benefit. And I'd say also like don't overthink things. Like I always overthink things, and trust me, like just because someone put a full stop in their email, like they don't hate you. That smiley face isn't aggressive. Like genuinely, just believe in yourself and try not to overthink, which I know is really hard, but genuinely, like you've got this and you are your expert in your own life and you have so much to bring to the table. So don't ever let anyone forget that. don't let anyone like make you forget that.
Absolutely, everything Becky and Justine said. And I think for me, the one quality is reflection. I think it's really important as a leader to be able to take time to reflect. Reflect is like thinking time, time to consider your actions, time to think about the impact that it will have. A lot of the times, in a position of leadership, you might feel rushed to make a decision, you might feel this pressure, but it's good to take time to step away and reflect. And it goes back to our mental health. We can only be great leaders when we're looking after our mental health as well, and when we're making sure that we have that downtime to rest and look after ourselves. So for me, it's really, really important as a leader that I take time to just step away and reflect and take in lots of, I think that reflective time allows me to see different angles to an opinion. And I think a lot of the time when women find themselves in positions of leadership, there's a lot of pressure on them. Like Becky and Justin said, you might be the only person in the room, or there might be resistance to change. And that can be a lot of pressure for one woman or two women or a group of women, whether you're young or a little bit older, whether you're senior, whether you're in your own business. There can be a lot of pressure on you. So I think taking time to reflect is something that I think makes a great leader, so that you're not acting based on the pressures that everyone else is putting on you.
That's brilliant. And that's also really, really resonates with me, especially as I just booked a week off next week, which I was really reluctant to do because there's always a lot of things to do. But I absolutely agree, giving yourself permission and space and time to reflect, but also just catch your breath and gain that sort of headspace. And yeah, I absolutely agree with sort of listening, delegating, and not overthinking. I think a lot of us are guilty of that, especially since we moved into just digital communication. So it's really easy to read a lot into exclamation marks or lack of exclamation marks and the language that people use, and emojis and no emojis. So all excellent points from the panelists. So moving into kind of more the topic of today's panel, have you had a mentor or have you mentored others?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I found that I've done a lot of mentoring. And it's funny because I never look at myself as somebody who, I know I shouldn't do this, who has anything valuable or anyone who wants to, necessarily be mentored by, but I do get a lot of mentorship inquiries. So at the University of Edinburgh, they have a student agency, advertising agency, to prepare students for working in the advertising world. So I'm one of the mentors that works with a student agency. So I worked with a student agency last year. I'm working with a student agency again. And it's a really, really wonderful opportunity to be able to give back. There's also this group called The Collective. So I'm a mentor on there as well. And this Sunday, so I do kind of like free 30-minute chats with people, just because it can be very lonely being a leader. So I always invite people, hey, let's just have a little chat. And I had a chat with someone on Sunday who did, they asked me, would you be my mentor? And it's fabulous to be able to give back, and especially to younger women, to help them navigate, this world of leadership. And I really, really do enjoy it. I really, really love helping young women see their potential and how they can grow and develop in the creative sectors. In terms of having a mentor myself, I'm actually like Becky, I grew up incredibly introverted. So I find it very hard. So there's like this amazing woman called Sharmadine Reed, who has an OBE, and I've wanted to ask her for years to be my mentor, but it's funny, I can't take my own advice. Like I always tell people, come and ask me to be your mentor, feel free open, but for myself, I'm just like, I can't ask her. So I don't have a formal mentor, but I do have a business coach, and she's absolutely amazing. Her name is Reham. She's based here in Scotland, and she's brilliant because she helps guide me through a lot of the imposter syndrome, can I do it? She's kind of a mentor to me. But I think there's also very untraditional mentors. I think every woman that I meet on my journey is a mentor to me in some shape or capacity, because I learn from them, I listen to them, I follow their journeys, I feel inspired by them. So even in this room today on this panel, I feel like Justine and Becky, you're mentors to me right now, because I'm getting that experience of learning from you, your wisdom, your stories, and your strengths. So I think for me, I'm mentored by a lot of women, and they probably don't even know it, but they're just giving me that push to, Sophie, we're with you. We're on this journey together. We're also women in leaders. And I think that for me, that collective sense of mentorship helps me as somebody who finds it very hard and my social anxiety to reach out to people and say, hey, I'd love for you to mentor me.
Yeah, I think I have to. Oh, you go, Becky.
It's okay, on you go.
You sure? I was, excuse me, I was just going to say, yes, Sophie, I totally agree with that. That all the women that I've met, who I've met on my journey, I've learned so many things from them, lots of different things. And you're absolutely right. It's like it is mentoring everybody you meet on your journey. I've mentored a few times, more on an informal basis, where I've been approached by somebody I've known, and I've loved it. For me, again, same as Sophie, I want to give back. I've had so much help, support, and advice throughout my life and my career that I want to give back. And my father taught me, treat people the way you would like to be, you would want to be treated. And that's it's hugely important. It's a major value for me. And so I do want to give back. And I do feel that with the people who I have helped, I know I've had a different journey from many people. And I've had to find resilience and strength very deep down. And I feel that if I can convey that, or help women to see that, you know, you can go through all this and you can still come out the other side. You know, if I can do it, you can do it. So that's hugely important for me. I've also had mentoring. And again, one's a very informal one, who's actually a good friend and neighbour. And I don't think I realised until many years later that he'd actually been mentoring me since I set up Chamomile Sanctuary, because I was always popping through and picking his brains about things, and he'd point me in different directions. So there was that individual. And also just last year, actually, I had created a product during lockdown last year, because obviously with the spa being totally closed and no income, it's been devastating for us. And it was a facial with all the products you'd have in the spa delivered to your door. There's a professional video, 45 minutes, takes you through everything and so on and so forth. And we won Best Pivot Product for it in the summer last year, which was fantastic. But I wanted to get it out properly to the marketplace, not just to my clients. And I actually wasn't quite sure where to start with that, because it's not something I have a skill, you know, it's not one of my skills. And I was given the mentor through the award I got from We Do Scotland. Yeah, lots of, I know the individual Pete Higgins, and he gave me lots of advice, support, knowledge, experience, very invaluable. But it was very interesting when we finished at the end, he said, Justine, all you needed were some nudges in the right direction. You had the knowledge up there, you knew what to do, you just needed somebody to come along and get it out of you. And I think that's what mentors do. They can see things you don't see, and they can maybe take you in a direction you didn't actually expect to go and you wouldn't have thought of. There's so many things that mentors can do. And as I say, I just think it's massively important. As you know, as women, we should try and help where we can.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Sophie and Justine have been saying about kind of just being mentored by every woman in your life. Because I'm so lucky to be surrounded by so many inspiring women who constantly help me, whether that's, you know, like proofreading something or teach me how to do something, or just like being there to soundboard ideas off. It's so valuable and really appreciated. So in terms of formal mentoring, I've been really lucky because I was on the Scottish Book Trust What's Your Story programme, where I was assigned a mentor. So I was able to be mentored by a female poet for performance poetry, which was really invaluable to kind of learn from her experience and learn like how to really perform and really like edit your poem, something which I never used to do. So I think it's really important to have that, but also kind of have that as, you know, you can see that someone's done what you want to do. And in terms of more informal mentoring, I'm also quite involved in debating. So I'm really lucky that a lot of the older debaters have been very helpful to me when I was just starting off, kind of telling me like, oh, hey, Becky, maybe actually make a point, and kind of, you know, helping with structure. And I think that sort of like informal mentorship is super important. And now I'm very lucky because I'm one of the debate captains. So I now get to give back and help the younger years in terms of debating. I think also like just all the women I've ever met, like I see them, they pop up on my social media and I'm like, wow, what they're doing is so cool. And I'd say like, if you think that, like, don't be shy to tell them. Like it always, like if someone's done something cool, let them know. You know, recently I've been super inspired by Jess Lee, who's one of the, I'm not sure if she's a founder, but she works a lot on the Our Streets Now program to tackle public street sexual harassment. And, you know, she did a TED talk with TEDx Exeter. And, you know, I think just letting these people know that you're inspired by them, or like wondering, hey, I'm trying to set up a campaign, will you help me? People will always be willing to do that. So I'd say, and if not, like, there's no harm in asking. So I'd say, you know, let the people who inspire you, let them know that, and, you know, ask them if you need help.
Thank you. That's really powerful. And you already touched upon sort of the best thing about being a mentor in terms of being able to give back. But I was wondering if you have any further reflections of what's the most rewarding thing about either having a mentor or being a mentor. Anything that you haven't shared yet, or anything that you wanted to reflect on further?
I think something that I didn't mention isn't quite related to what you've just asked, but one thing I think is really important if you are going down the process of having a mentor, that you are married up to the right person, that they get you, they get your business, they get, if you have a brand, they get your brand, because there's no point just going out and just taking whatever mentor you're given. It's not going to work. It has to be the right person. And you're all going in the same direction, on the same hymn sheet.
I would say something else which is quite important, and sometimes it can be quite unique about, you know, having a mentor, is kind of the element of mutual respect and how you both recognize that you both have things to bring to the table. Whereas maybe this is just, you know, being in like high school, but sometimes teaching can feel quite like one-sided in terms of like, I have all the knowledge, and instead of like this mutual exchange where you both realize that you have things to bring to the table. And I think that's really important because it can make you like feel more open about making mistakes, because you know that this person recognizes you as someone who has value. So I think that's quite unique and useful for mentoring.
Absolutely, and I think I agree perfectly with what was just expressed there. And I think one of the things for me that really, why I really love mentoring is you see the confidence of the mentee flourish, and it's just wonderful to be able to witness that, because it can be really daunting. You know, I'll use the example of the university mentoring I do. You know, it's very daunting, you know, finishing your degree and then going out into the agency world where you've heard all these crazy stories about how hard it is and you'll never reach the top. And, you know, young women don't own agencies, they don't become art directors. And I think when you just open up and share and instill that courage in people, for me, I love seeing that. I love seeing the journey of, you know, a young woman grow her confidence and realize I can do this. I can totally do it. And you can help her navigate it, because often the time is you do have the answers yourself. I think Jasmine said this, you do have the answers, but you have this voice of self-doubt, of criticism, you know, negative stereotypes. So you're carrying that all around. And a mentor can just cut through all of that and just help affirm you and let you know just how brilliant you are. So I love that experience. And I think it doesn't always, sometimes we think, you know, a mentor has to be this very structured thing where you meet every week or every month, and it really doesn't need to be. So with my student agency, they just asked to meet me twice, and they told me, you know, this is what we would like you to cover, and don't be scared to let your mentor know what you would like them to help you with. It's for me, I love when people say, look, this is what we'd really like to be mentored in, or this is where I really need support, because then I can tailor our session to make sure they get exactly what they want. So never be scared to ask exactly what you want your mentor to help you with. Do you want them to help you with financing? Like Becky said, do you want them to help you with leading a debate? You know, do you want them to help you with launching a product, like Justine said? Be really clear about what you want your mentor to help you with, and you'll get the most out of that session.
That's brilliant. Thank you all. And I think you will all receive a lot of mentoring requests after today. In fact, Billy in chat is suggesting a mentor speed dating. I absolutely love that idea. So let's see if we can make that happen. So before moving to audience questions, I will ask a final, more practical question. So how do you go about finding yourself a mentor? What advice can you give to attendees today?
I think trade bodies are good for that. Certainly, you've got the Chambers of Commerce. I'm an ambassador for Women Enterprise Scotland, and they have programmes, they put on programmes. Business Women Scotland put on programmes as well. So it's the various bodies that you need to go to, and networking bodies as well. I know as well, We Do Scotland, which I'm a member of, for small to medium-sized businesses. They're great for actually joining. If you can join things like that, you meet members, and from that you can end up finding somebody who you can partner up with as well. So I think a lot of being a member of bodies or approaching these groups are probably very good places to start.
So like for writing programs, and if you're looking for stuff like that, Scottish Book Trust usually have a lot of stuff, so definitely look on their website. I'd say, you know, for me personally, like programs like Young Women Lead, and also Pass the Mic, which is like a list of like women experts, and not women experts, female experts in Scotland on specific topics. You could probably reach out to them and ask them, but obviously like don't be disheartened if they don't reply or don't have the time. You will like find someone. But also like Twitter, like I see so many inspiring people on Twitter. Drop them a DM, see what happens. It's worth a shot.
Absolutely. And for someone like me, I think the reason I love social media is because I'm quite an introvert. Even though you know, I'm very bubbly, I'm also quite introvert. And social media is great because I don't have to ask them in person. I can send them a DM. I love approaching people on social media. But also, you know, ask the networks that you have now. I've been connected with some amazing women and been able to connect other women, you know, younger women, older women, to people that I know. So for example, the amazing Valerie, who's president of JCI Edinburgh, is on this call. I was part of the UN 65th Commission on the Status of Women, and she just asked me, and I was able to connect, you know, send her, look, this is a great person for you to speak to. So definitely, you know, do call out, you know, if you're looking for support, let's say in fundraising. You can do like a call out on your social media. Hey, does anyone know anyone that would be really great for me to speak to? Because often your network is going to be so useful to you. So if you're not sure where to start, ask somebody else to make a connection. I think that's a really, really nice way as well to be introduced to a pool of networks. So I'm always asking on my Twitter, hey, does anyone know somebody that knows anything about this? And you know, they'll be like, yeah, you should speak to this person. I can intro you to this person. So don't feel like you're in this alone. People are always more than happy to help. But I think often it's being bold enough to ask for help. And I think sometimes as women, we feel like, oh, I shouldn't ask for help, I should struggle alone. No, ask for help and keep asking for more. Because like Becky said, the worst that anyone can say is no, but the best outcome is you will meet an amazing mentor who can help you unlock your true potential and dreams.
Oh, well, I feel like I'm personally learning so much today, and I will definitely go on social media at some point soon to ask for help and mentors. This all sounds amazing, but yeah, we are now ready to take questions from the audience, and I can already see the first question in the chat, so I'll get started with that and give others a chance to think about their questions or reflections on what was being said so far. So the first question we have from Stephanie is, who are your role models?
I would say recently I've been really inspired by quite a few people who I have on my social media. So Eva Carroll is she's a young activist focusing on ending like public street harassment. She focuses a lot on female empowerment. She also does incredible work with Plan International. And I think for me, what's inspiring about her is like, I know her personally, like I've worked with her before, and she's so open and willing to share her knowledge and like share her advice. And also just, she's such a lovely person. And I think people who are just so open to sharing, like so many people in the feminist movement are, I think that's what really inspires me overall. But yeah.
Yeah, so mine is Sharmadean Reid. She's an amazing businesswoman. I followed her for years. And if you don't follow her, please do find her on social media. She started this network during the pandemic called the Stack to help women find their voices and navigate through business. And for me, she's just a brilliant example of, again, that quality of just always sharing her insights and what she knows and her journey. And it's just so brilliant to see. I would also put myself, I am a role model for myself. And it's taken me a long time to be like, no, I am a role model for myself because I stand up for the things that I care about in leadership. I'm a compassionate leader. And I think often as young women, especially, we're not used to kind of owning our brilliance, and that you can be your own role model and you can be and grow into the woman that you want to be. So I am my own role model because I am doing the things that I want to do. And it's my coach Reham that helped me get to that point. And then every single woman I meet inspires me in some way, shape or another. Like I live down in Bowness up the road from and our local post office. So I also have a social enterprise which makes beauty products to help homeless women in Edinburgh and hopefully across the whole of Scotland this year as we grow out. And the local ladies in the post office, I found them so inspiring. Every time I went in during lockdown to send someone's orders in the post office, they'd give me these little tips and tricks and be like, oh, you should try this. And, have you tried like a post office grab and go cards, like so many tips. And there's so much that we can learn from ordinary, I hate that word, ordinary people. There's so much that we can just learn, so much wisdom out there from people all around us. So I think, yeah, those are my three: Sharmadean Reid, myself, and in the words of Whitney Houston, every woman.
I don't know how to follow that. So I would say my role model is not a female. It's actually my father, who I miss dearly and wish he were here for all of his advice and experience. His ethics, his morals, going with your gut, treating people the way you wish to be treated. One of the most important things he taught me was you have to create your own opportunities because they won't land in your lap. You've got to do it yourself. And he had his own business as well and was very successful very quickly with it at a later age. Actually, he didn't set it up till he was 51. Yeah, he's my role model and always will be. But also, as Sophie says as well, all the people that surround us. I put up a link recently on LinkedIn and it was on International Women's Day. And I just wanted to say a big shout out and thank you to all the women who've been with me on my journey. They've been with me, they've helped me, they've guided me, and I've learned so much from them. So yes, I agree with Sophie as well. People who we surround ourselves with and who we deal with and come into contact with as well.
Fantastic, thank you all. And we have another question from Annalie. If you were designing a mentorship program to help develop future female leaders, what would the key ingredients be for developing a successful mentorship program?
I think definitely some of the ones that I've been involved in and developing, or I'm a mentor in. I think what really makes a great mentorship program is variety. And by variety, I mean variety in delivery, variety in what types of modules people pick. I think mentorship programs can sometimes be a one-size-fits-all approach. And I think it would be lovely, and I've not found or seen anything out there like this, where it is almost like a tailored approach, so you can pick from different options. So if you're somebody that needs like lots of, more in-person contact, or after COVID, that's for you. If you're someone that just needs like a check-in call, if you're someone that can do email, I think variety really, really help, because every young person and every woman is different and has different needs. And I think it's hard, obviously, because if you're creating something, you're never going to be able to meet everyone's needs. But the more choices you have, I think the more people's needs that you can help meet with mentoring.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It is about variety, isn't it? And that also comes back to having so much to choose from, so that you do marry up, yourself with the correct mentor, which is what I referred to earlier. I think that's massively important, and I think that really, for me, is the crux of it. That you have to have the right mentor, that you work together with, because you could be working together for, it could be just a couple of times, it could be months, it could be longer than that. So it has to be the right person.
I would say empowerment, so working to empower that person to be able to kind of, as Sophie was saying, like own their abilities and really recognize their ability. I think also like inspiration, like inspiring that person to, keep on going and do more. I think also what would be useful is if they were taught the skills on how they themselves could become a mentor to others, so they can pass on their skills. I think it's really important. So then, everyone's empowering everyone and it's just what you want. So I think those three ingredients would be very important.
Thank you. Valerie would like to know, what's one piece of advice you would like to give to future female leaders?
My one piece of advice is, this theme for this International Women's Day was Choose to Challenge. And I will admit, when I first heard it, I was like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. I was like, what does that even mean? But as time went on and I understood, I was like, yeah, that's it. We need to actively choose every day to challenge stereotypes, challenge when we're told no. And it, if we're honest, we live in a world where women who challenge are put down. Often, in the reality is sometimes even, outside of business, your life might even be at risk if you challenge. And I think if we were to inspire women to continually challenge, to rally around each other. So if a woman finds herself, ostracized, or, not having the support, like Justine said, of the board, even though she is a co-owner, she chose to challenge in that situation and went ahead and found other ways to fund the Dundee United women's football team. And I think that's amazing. So although it took me a while to understand what Choose to Challenge is, I really feel, for me, that is a wonderful rallying call for women in leadership going forward, that we need to challenge. I don't know if anyone, maybe it's because I work in advertising, if anyone has seen the Nike advert where Serena Williams is voicing over. And I just love that. And the same with like Sport England did the one, you know, This Girl Can, with like the Missy Elliott sound in the background. I just love this idea of just women challenging and being in places where people don't expect us to be, you know, like Nicola Sturgeon in leadership. Like, it's just the most, it gives me goosebumps just seeing how she leads, because people don't expect her to be so decisive and stand her ground. And it's, for me, it's just so brilliant to see, because she challenges everything that people expect, you know, a woman politician to be. So yeah, that's the one, Isabel. Yeah, it's crazy, the crazy ad, Serena. So I feel like for me, finding my voice is a big part of that challenge, and I'm going to carry that theme of choose the challenge on beyond this 2021 International Women's Day.
My advice would be like, don't buy into the patriarchy or realize when you do it, particularly in terms of like competition with other women, because it's so easy to do. It's so easy to be like, oh, there's only one seat for women, and instead of like getting angry at the fact there's only one seat for women and 10 seats for men, we kind of focus instead on like fighting with other people to get that seat. And I think instead what we should be doing is obviously working with other people to build more seats. So I think that's really important. And like, just sometimes like noticing in your thinking, like, is that actually what I believe, or is that what I've been conditioned by a male dominating society to believe? Because, you know, like, we shouldn't be tearing other women down. We shouldn't be looking at her success and being like, oh well, she probably did X, Y, and Z. We should instead be like celebrating that success and then asking her, hey, can you be my mentor? So I think that's really important, to just like check yourself and make sure.
For me, it's believe in yourself. I think, again, imposter syndrome, we doubt ourselves. And where was it? It was a book I read. It was either by Malcolm Gladwell, David versus Goliath, or something, or it was in the Lean In book, but I think it was the Malcolm Gladwell book. And they looked at where there was a group of men and a group of women, and there was a job description. And the men would look at it and go tick, 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 tick. I can do this, I can do this, I can do that. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this. Still going to go for it. And then you'd have the women would come along and they'd look at it and go tick, tick, tick. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that either. Oh, I don't know if I can go for that job. And that is the difference. The only way to change that is to believe in yourself that you can actually do it. So yeah, again, it may sound a little bit flippant, but you have to have that confidence in yourself that you can do that. And if that means having people there, you know, to G you up, then do it. Find those mentors to G you up, to give you that confidence so you can go ahead and lead.
Thank you. I think that's a wonderful notion to finish on, for all of us to at least have the confidence of an average man, because we clearly can do things. It's just that imposter syndrome and the conditioning from the society that we grew up in that sometimes stops us from seeing that. And I can see that there are more questions. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. But I think once we put the video online, we will open the chat again on Twitter. So if people want to still ask their questions, and obviously if the panelists want to engage with that content, that would be absolutely wonderful. But yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to our panelists for being here today with us and celebrating the last day of March, the International Women's Month. I think we really explored sort of opportunities for how to support each other better and how to create those networks around you and to recognize the networks that we already have. And I'm really hopeful that speed dating for mentors is going to happen, because I absolutely love this idea. So we will put our heads together to try to figure out how we can actually make it happen. But massive thank you to Sophie, Justine, and Becky. And I was wondering, Valerie, do you want to pop in to say anything as we are saying goodbyes? Is there anything that you wanted to flag up that JCI is doing?
I'll pop the links in the chat for everybody to give Aberdeen, Edinburgh and Scotland a wee follow. And yeah, we've got a great mix coming up, also an entrepreneur series. We're going to help startups with some key skills. But I'm a bit speechless after this panel session. It was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. Very inspirational. Yes, and just thank you very much.
Thank you so much again, and yeah, we'll post the video soon, and we'll make sure that you all receive the link to the recording, so you can share it with your networks. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight, and have a great rest of the evening.